I'm part of that Obama coalition. I come out of the black community in terms of my support. If you notice, I have more people supporting me in the black community that have announced for me because they know me. They know who I am. 3 former chairs of the Black Caucus, the only African-American woman that ever been elected to the United States Senate, a whole range of people.
No,
my point is,
that's not true. The other one is here.
I said the first. I said the first African-American elected. First African-American. So my point is that one of the reasons I was picked to be vice president was because of my relationship, long-standing relationship with the black community. I was part of that coalition.
All right, joining us now, Democratic presidential candidate Senator Kamala Harris of California. My gosh, up bright and early. I don't know how you're doing these hours, all of you.
It's like 2.5 hours sleep.
Really?
We're here.
God, how do you think it went last night?
I thought it was a good night. A lot of important issues were covered, and you know, there's so much at stake, and you know, as I say often, if not all the time, you know, justice is on the ballot, and so talking about the various injustices, including the subject matter of the impeachment process, it's an important discussion.
So moving forward strategically for your campaign, what are the challenges? How do we get the debate stage down to 2 or 3 candidates? And how do you make sure Kamala Harris is one of them?
Yeah, you know, Mika, the reality, you know, I'm just into real talk at this point. I mean, the reality is that the top of the, you know, the top of the field, many have been on the stage for decades. They're familiar, they're known, and they have name ID for that reason. And so my challenge is to up my name ID and introduce myself to people. You know, a large part of it is the fundraising piece. I need to raise the money to be on TV in Iowa, you know, as soon as possible. That's just a crude fact of running for president. And until we have campaign finance reform, which will be one of my first areas of focus when elected, until that happens, that's a part of the process.
Hey, Senator Harris, Willie Geist, good to see you this morning.
Hi.
I know you were busy preparing for a debate yesterday, but there was some, as we've been talking about all morning, some incredibly damning testimony put forward by Ambassador Sondland and 2 other witnesses later in the day. I understand you are a potential juror in this case as a United States Senator, but you're also a prosecutor. As you listen to the evidence, is there any doubt in your mind that President Trump has committed an impeachable offense here?
We have not yet, the American people have not yet been presented with anything that is evidence-based that causes any question about what happened. I mean, we've got a confession. It happened in plain sight. And then Sondland's testimony yesterday was basically, you know, all the president's men. I mean, he said, you know, everyone was in the loop. And so I think it gets worse and worse for the president, frankly, and we'll see how this all ends up. Obviously, the process is still unfolding. But at this point, I think that, you know, we have been presented with a lot of information that tells us that this president has committed impeachable offenses and really shouldn't be in office.
So as you talk to your Republican colleagues, the conventional wisdom is, based on what we know, he'll be impeached in the House, which is controlled by Democrats, but it's not going anywhere in the Senate because it's controlled by Mitch McConnell and Republicans. Do you share that view? Do you see any world where Republicans have watched this and say, you know what, I am going to vote against the president. I am going to vote to convict him if there's a trial in the Senate?
Willie, I'm clear-eyed about it. I've been in the Senate now almost 3 years, and I've not seen much evidence of my colleagues across the aisle's willingness to stand up and speak out. And those that have not run for re-election, or, you know, folks like the late, great John McCain. But I will say this. I do believe that the elected Republicans are one thing, but when we're talking about the American people, including those who are registered as Republicans, my appeal is to them, which is that I think we all know this is just not right. It's not right. And in so many ways, our democracy is being challenged when we have this kind of abuse of power. And the framers obviously imagined that there might be this moment and there should be a check and balance. And so my appeal really is to the American people, regardless of who they voted for in the last election, that we should all stand up and say this is not right and it has to end.
Kamala, it's Claire. I thought you were.
Hi, Claire.
I thought you were terrific last night. I want to talk about one thing that was a focus last night, probably really for the first time, and that was women, and particularly women of color and the struggles they face. You made a point about that so many women are having children in their 30s, and they have the dual responsibility of caring for parents and caring for children. And that really resonated with women across this country. Do you think we've done enough on the debate stage and in this campaign talking about not Lunch Bucket Joe, but rather 32-year-old single mom, associate's degree, still having to work 2 jobs to take care of her kids? Talk a little bit about that and whether or not you think we are beginning to get parity on these women's issues that are so important to Democrats, because it's women, and particularly black women, that elect presidents in the Democratic Party.
We have not done enough. There's no question. Women are now the majority population in America. And certainly it has not, the issues that impact women and their families have not been the majority of the subjects raised in these presidential debates. There's no question. Everything from childcare, I'm very glad that it was brought up, and the moderators last night are exceptional as professionals, and it was great that they were all women. But there are so many issues that are about paid family leave. It's about equal pay. It is about what we need to do around sexual harassment in the workplace. Well, I mean, just the topics go on. And as you and I know, every issue is a woman's issue, and women's issues should be everyone's issues. But women have an experience around a lot of these issues that is specific and unique and should be discussed. There's more to be done. I mean, the equal pay issue, Claire. In 1963, so just, okay, guys, think about this. The United States Congress in 1963 acknowledged that women are not paid equal for equal work. Now, let's close our eyes for a moment and imagine who was in the United States Congress in 1963.
Wasn't folks that look like us?
Wait, here's the thing. Those guys knew it was an issue.
Right.
But yet, fast forward to the year of our Lord 2019, and women are still paid 80 cents on the dollar. Black women 61 cents, Native American women 58 cents, Latinos 53 cents.
Yeah,
or 54, right. So, no, we have not done enough. And that's part of the point I was trying to make last night, which is that, women don't want to be flattered. I'm done with that. And I think most women are. Don't flatter us. Don't say, hey, you are the reason that we win. Oh, we're so proud that we elected 100 women to the United States Congress. Yes, acknowledge that. But then what are you doing for women? And that's part of the issue. And so I appreciate your question, and there's more to be done, both on the debate stage and in policy.
Hey, Senator Harris, it's Karine Jean-Pierre here. I'm going to echo Claire and say you had a superb night, very, very strong debate.
Thank you.
And
Thank you.
Also, I want to commend you on lifting up black women when you had the stage and the moment, and to talk about how black women are treated by the party and forgotten after they come out and vote. But my question to you is that you are in Georgia, ground zero for voter suppression. We all know that Democrats will not win in 2020 without overwhelming turnout from the black community. And if we do win next year, it's going to be in spite of voter suppression, right? We see that across the country. What can Democrats do to protect the vote?
You're so right, Karine. I mean, first of all, 2013, the Supreme Court gutted the Voting Rights Act with Shelby v. Holder, and immediately thereafter, 24 states at least put in place laws, including in the state of Georgia, but famously in North Carolina, where the Court of Appeals said with surgical precision it was designed to suppress the black vote. We've seen the purging of the voter rolls in Georgia. It is a very real issue. So we have to deal with it in terms of the legislation that should get passed, which I support and am pushing to put teeth back in the Voting Rights Act. We need to litigate these cases in courtrooms around the country as it relates to the specific laws that have been put in place. But we also need to empower the community groups and the nonprofit groups that are attempting to help people register to vote and get to the polls and to get around these obstructions. Because while we are litigating these cases, elections are happening. And so we're going to have to we're going to have to really move around these obstacles to get people to vote. I believe we should have Election Day as a holiday. I believe that we need to have automatic voter registration. But until we get all of those things, we're going to have to help the people on the ground getting folks to the polls, getting people registered to vote. And then my final point is this. In addition to the classic voter suppression, we also have to recognize the Russian interference and what that has meant in terms of that misinformation campaign that has targeted black voters. And so we now have the classic voter suppression, and on top of that, the contemporary or modern day voter suppression, which is foreign interference targeting black voters to turn black voters off on the whole process and basically to stay at home. That's voter suppression. And serving on the Senate Intelligence Committee, we published a report a few weeks ago. I urge everyone to read it to know what we're talking about and what we're dealing with. It's a real issue. It's a very big issue.
Senator Kamala Harris, thank you so much for being on this morning. We really appreciate it.
Thank you.
And to her point about Russian interference, we just got the opening statement from Dr. Fiona Hill, who's going to be testifying today before the House Intel Committee. And she's a member of the National Security Council, Soviet, Russian, and European Affairs. And her opening statements is really a warning to Congress. Right now, Russia's security services and their proxies have geared up to repeat their interference in the 2020 election. We are running out of time to stop them.
And you know what else she does? She tears to shreds in this opening statement the conspiracy theory that Ukraine somehow meddled in the election. That is a theory pushed by Donald Trump and the White House. She says, I refuse to be part of an effort to legitimize an alternative reality, a narrative that the Ukrainian government is a U.S. adversary and that Ukraine, not Russia, attacked us in 2016.
Oh, this should be very interesting this morning. Coming.
Thanks for checking out MSNBC on YouTube, and make sure you subscribe to stay up to date on the day's biggest stories. And you can click on any of the videos around us to watch more from Morning Joe and MSNBC. Thanks so much for watching.